Yeah, okay, let's jump in. So today's agenda, we're going to touch on the normal community event cycle, upcoming events. We're going to talk about Climate Week, and then Ryan is doing a demo of the groups module. We have Max talking about the Kado launch, and I believe Corey will be on later to talk about the Kilowatt Sheep Hour, which passed governance last week. And then just some reminder of regular governance happenings. Okay, so September is actually a normal month, so we don't have any weeks off this time. Um, the 21st, next Thursday, is going to be the next Regen Ready News Hour. 2 weeks from today is the next community call for Registry Science and Foundation. That same day, but an hour before, is going to be our environmental stewardship community meeting, which is led by Ned. And then the week after that, we have the next Regen Ready News Hour. And then 4 weeks from today is going to be the next product and protocol community call. So if you enjoy this one, be sure to join us for the next one 4 weeks from now. New York City Climate Week. I'm not sure who is discussing this one. Sorry, I should have notes about that. Emily, do you know who New York City Climate Week was? Not Dax, obviously.
Yeah, she is actually at one of these events right now. But I think that you can probably just give an overview and read what's here and invite people to
Oh,
Gen Social Hour.
sure, for sure. Oh my goodness, this is this week. I didn't even notice. I thought this was a retrospective. Sorry,
So
Mama Top.
Climate Week actually starts next week. But there are some events starting earlier. You can see some on September 12th. Bax is actually speaking in front of the UN with GBBC. So we're excited to be cheering her on for that remotely.
Awesome. Cool. Will there be video of that? Do you know? Have you heard to watch
So
later or?
I am not 100% sure. Um, yeah, I think that it was just a live event. So if people registered for tickets, I think that it was in person only.
Oh, oh,
So
fair
we'll
enough.
see if
Okay,
there's a recording. Fingers
cool.
crossed.
Awesome. Well, okay, so New York City Climate Week next week. If you're in the area, definitely check it out. We'll have some team members there and some good events that you can join in.
Yeah, and
Uh,
the Regen Network social hour, it's going to be really mellow, super laid back, kind of like a safe haven for folks who have been going to events during the week. It'll be really lovely just to connect with our community there. So there will be more info about all of these events on our Twitter. So you'll see that coming out this week and following week. So just stay tuned.
awesome. Thank you so much for that update. So yeah, everybody follow our Twitter for more information on these. Next, Groups UI demo. You ready to jump right into this, Ryan?
Yeah, I think one slide back, there should be
Oh,
um there we
my
go.
apologies.
There should be an intro slide. Cool. This yeah, this part of the call, I'm going to do a little bit of a Groups UI demo. I just wanted to first provide a little bit of background context. So originally the group module was a module that was designed and developed by R&D, and it was part of a larger story about improving the user experience with Cosmos SDK applications. Basically, the existing multi-sig was known to have a bunch of issues and limitations. And the groups module is developed as kind of a advanced multi-sig. In a lot of ways, it's a foundation or framework for developing and building DAOs. And we just call them groups to simplify things a bit. But yeah, group module is basically an advanced multi-sig or a tool and feature that could be used to build a DAO. We received a grant from the ICF Foundation, Interchain Foundation, to design and develop a user interface for the group module. When the grant ended, we continued work on the group module, and this has kind of always been a bit of a side project. We've had basically one lead dev working on it over the last year on as like a side project, and then this year we pushed it over the finish line, and basically declared what is an MVP. So just a bit of forewarning there. It is an MVP in our mindset. It's a version 1.0. There's a lot of opportunities to add new features and to further build it out and improve functionality. But we basically defined what we thought was a critical kind of first milestone for users being able to interact with the group module using a user interface. So the V1.0 release, you can check out the release notes. I'll share those here in the chat as well. And this provides a lot more information basically about what 1.0 includes. I'll just breeze over this real quickly, but you should check out the link if you want more information. Basically, multi-network support means that you can switch between networks when you're using the Groups UI. Currently, the deployment that Regen Network is R&D is hosting has two configured chains. One is Regen mainnet, Regen. The other is Regen Redwood, our stable test network. And for creating and managing groups, basically, this is one of the core functionality of the user interface is basically you're able to create your own groups or your own DAOs. And you're able to create a decision policy associated with that group where you just define basically the requirements that need to be met in order for a proposal to be passed within the group. There is the ability to create multiple decision policies for a single group, and that's part of the design. The Groups UI initially only really supports creating one decision policy within the application, but if you are using the group module outside the application and you have multiple decision policies, it does support viewing those multiple decision policies. Submit and vote on proposals. This is the primary function of the group. Basically, based on the decision policies criteria, you're submitting proposals, and yeah, whether the proposal passes is based on the criteria defined by the decision policy, and the members of the group are able to participate in voting and submitting proposals. One additional feature here that is just worth mentioning is that the group module, the way that it's designed not to bloat application state. So basically, you can imagine a network that has thousands of groups and thousands of proposals, and that could slow and affect network performance. So group proposals are actually pruned from application state on chain. Obviously, the events are still stored with like a node is an archive node, and you're able to still pull that information out. But as far as like application state, current state of the blockchain, proposals get pruned after they are accepted or after a certain period has been reached and they've been rejected and the voting period has ended. So we developed basically a very simple indexer that works alongside the Groups UI and preserves those historical proposals so that you can access them within the Groups UI. That's kind of a high-level overview. I'm sure there's questions, but I think it would be best to keep moving towards the demo and get a little bit of a picture of what the Groups UI looks like and maybe visualize a bit what this looks like. So next slide, if you get a chance. So there's a long list. I don't think we'll actually maybe cover all of these, but I want to kind of like touch on a few of them, and or maybe we can get through about half of them. But yeah, here's like kind of the functionality that you can imagine that's available within the Groups UI, and we'll try to cover as much of this as possible. And yeah, we'll hop on to the next slide, and I'll actually, can you screen share? Can you give me screen sharing?
Sorry, you should be able to do it now.
Cool. Okay, so most people, when they log into groups.regen.network, they'll see a screen like this, and it'll look like there's nothing here. That's currently intended with the MVP in the sense that you're only going to view groups that you're a member of. So here we can see that I'm using one of my test accounts, and I'm on Regen mainnet, and this test account is not a member of any groups on Regen mainnet. But if I were to switch to Regen Redwood, then I would be able to see groups that are associated with my test account on Regen Redwood. And you can see here, I've got 5 groups that I'm a member of. Mostly, I mean, all these are being used just strictly for testing purposes. But I can click on any one of these groups, or I can create a group, and you can see here, yeah, this is happening on Regen Redwood, and I have the option of doing that on mainnet as well. The group, like, just as a quick preview before we do any functionality, which I'll actually do on a local test network. I just want to show you here, here's like the groups page. So you can see, like, I've got this group, it's called Core Cooperative. Here's the balance that's currently in the decision policy of the group. And you can see here, if I go to group details, there's this group policy, and there's 2 members in this group. They each have a weight of 1. I'm breezing over a lot of stuff, but it'll make more sense as I go through creating a group. And yeah, you can see here, there's a proposal that's been submitted. This proposal says distribute funding. This proposal sends Regen tokens to members of the cooperative as a form of payment for their contributions. So you can see here, there's a couple messages. 2 different addresses are receiving 1 Regen. And one of these addresses has voted on this proposal, which is actually the address that's logged in. So here's like a brief overview. You can kind of get the idea that there's this group, and there are these members of this group, and they have these voting weights, and there's this group decision policy. And basically the homepage is showing you proposals that have been submitted, ones that are ready to execute. Basically, the proposal has passed the voting period. It was accepted. I'm able to execute it now, versus proposals that are currently like in the voting period, and as well as historical proposals. So proposals that have been executed or been rejected, they would show up in the historical section or history section. And I'm going to go over these actions through a demo, but I just want to point out, like, there's basically 3 functions here. There's a 4th option available if the decision policy is the admin of the group, which we'll demonstrate. But just giving you like a brief dive or a deep dive into kind of what you're seeing and experiencing. You can also see that, yeah, it's a public blockchain. So if I'm logged in to an account that's not a member of a group, I'm still able to see the group. If I were to know the group ID and go to the group page, it's all public information. But when you're looking at the initial dashboard, rather than showing a bunch of groups, especially like test groups or groups that aren't relevant to the user, the homepage basically just displays the group that you're a member of. But I just wanted to point out this one is an example because, 1, I'm not a member of this group, but 2, you can also see like this group has actually deposited or sent tokens to the group policy account, and not just Regen tokens, but NCT tokens. So you can see and imagine that like a group could be holding funds for different types of tokens and funding, and this group is essentially holding ecological assets, which is very relevant to Regen. So next up, I'm going to switch over to a local environment, just because that way I can set the voting period to a shorter voting period. I'm going to switch to another test address, which has funds on this local network. But basically, we're going to start by walking through creating a group. So here, if I click that create group button, like you can see, I have no groups as part of this account. I'm not a member of any groups, that is. I can go to create group. I have a couple options here initially. You're going to create a group, and in so doing, there's going to be an admin, and the admin is able to basically update information about the group. They're also able to add members or remove members from the group. So you can see there's an option here for me to be the admin of the group. The account that I'm logged in as, which this one is called Alice, I could be the admin of this group, or I could create a group where there is a group decision policy that's the admin of the group, meaning if I wanted to update members of the group, I would have to go through a voting process within the group, and based on the decision policy's criteria, that would determine whether I could actually, whether the proposal would actually pass. So we're just going to create a group named Foo. Sorry for the lack of creativity here. And I'm not going to fill out any of the information in order to save time. But you can see here, you can add additional information for your group, including like a forum link. Here I'm adding myself, Alice, as the member of the first member of the group. We'll give Alice a voting weight of 1. I'm going to go and switch to Bob just to get his address. But I'm going to be executing this as Alice. So I'm going to add another member. Great. I've got Alice and Bob here. Oh, that doesn't look right. Okay, that was right. I've got Alice and Bob. I've added them as members. They each have a vote weight of 1. So thinking of the vote weight with 1, basically I can create a group where I set a threshold, and I can have that threshold be 1 now, or I can have it be 2. And basically 1 would mean I would need only 1 member to vote yes on it for it to pass, or 2 would be I would need both of the members to vote on it yes as to pass. Another is you could use percentage. So you have the option of setting a percentage rather than a threshold. So the accumulated vote weights is determined, taken into account when determining the percentage, whereas a threshold is more of just like a single value. And so, yeah, for the sake of this tutorial or demo, I'm going to set a vote threshold of 2. I've switched things. This is why I'm using a local environment. I've switched things on the back end here so that this is not days, but rather seconds, so that we can actually execute a proposal. I'm going to set it to 30 seconds, but if you're using this, this is actually days on Redwood or on the deployment. So I'm creating a group. The threshold of this group is 2. That means both members need a vote on a proposed. I'm creating a group with the decision policy as the admin of the group, and the decision policy's threshold is 2. So any proposals to update the group will require 2 votes from the 2 members. So I've signed the transaction with Kepler. I can view the group page now. So here's Foo group. It has no proposals. You can see the group details. The voting period is 30 seconds, but this is displayed a little funky because seconds is not supported at the moment. And so the group policy has an address. And basically the group policy serves 2 functions. It's 1, setting the criteria for proposals to pass within that are associated with this group policy. And 2, it also has an account associated with it. So you can think of a group policy as both an account and a set of criteria. The group account is basically the account that is executing the proposals. So if you submit a proposal that's sending tokens from one address, sending tokens from one address to another address, you're basically, the from address has to be the group policy address, because that's the address executing the proposal, and you're not allowed to send funds from another account. Therefore, the group policy also needs a token balance in order to send funds. So I'm going to actually go ahead and copy that address and send some local regen to this group account. And then when we're viewing our group, you can see here I've got 5 million U regen. And that's equivalent to 1 regen, which I just sent over. So now we're viewing our group. the group decision policy, which is our admin of the group, is holding 5 regen. You can see here there's this fourth option that wasn't available when I was showing you the other page originally. And this is because the admin of the group is the decision policy. So now that I've got this group, I've got a couple members, I'm still logged in as Alice, I can submit a text proposal. And a text proposal can be used for anything. I mean, it's not going to execute any messages. It's just going to provide basically a decision record or a signaling proposal to understand what, like group members agree upon. This could be like putting in a new process or a signaling proposal before making a larger change to the group. I'm not feeling too creative at the moment, so I'm just going to use the default text. But basically, before we get into messages, I just want to demonstrate quickly here. There's the ability to create text proposals, and basically when I go through and I've submitted that proposal, you can see here this proposal, it just has a title and a description, which is part of this metadata. And Alice here is the proposer of this proposal, and you can see the submit time, the voting end time, which is pretty quick and already about to pass. So quickly click there, final tally result. I missed it. It looks like the voting period had already passed. But yeah, you get an idea that there's this option for submitting text proposals. And you can see here there's also an option for sending. So like to address, I could send Alice tokens from our group account using the group's UI. So basically, if I were distributing funds to members of the group, I'd be able to submit a proposal here. This time I'm going to quickly vote on this so that we can see it pass. Switch to Bob. Bob's going to vote yes as well. Sorry if this is moving pretty quick, but we'll have time for questions. And so here you can see proposal 2, single proposal is rejected. No one voted on it within the 30 seconds. This one is still submitted. The voting period is not quite over, but it is soon to be over. And if, we refresh here, you can see it's got the voting results for the second proposal, which is sending tokens from the group policy account to Alice. And basically at this point, we now have a proposal that can be executed. And if we execute that, we'll see the balance change for our group policy account, and the balance would then change for Alice as well. So that was just a quick demonstration of send. I'm not going to do this for the other proposals to save time, but you can see here there another action in addition to a text proposal and a send proposal is we have a stake proposal. With the stake proposal, there's multiple options: delegate, redelegate, undelegate, claim reward. This is something that we thought was pretty critical at the initial step, given that CS DAOs are essentially determining which validators they're delegating to, and the idea of CS DAOs using the group module has always been in the design and plan for adding this UI and functionality. So basically, you can see here there's multiple options. I can select the validator. I'm on a local network. There's only one validator available to choose from, but basically I can perform these different actions in regards to staking using the group's UI. And then this last and final one, which I will quickly here submit a proposal, but basically because the decision policy is the admin of our group, I have the ability to submit proposals specific to updating the group or the group policy. And basically you can see here, there's these members that I've added. Whoops, wrong button. And I'm going to go ahead and add a third member to this group. And then I'm going to submit a proposal. And this proposal is going to, then go into voting period. And upon being executed, a demo is not a demo without an error. I'm not sure what happened there.
Did you switch back to your previous account?
Yeah, thank you. That was, that's exactly it. So I tried to execute the proposal as Carol, who was the new member being added to the group, but was not the group. So you can see there's a little bit of knowledge that is required just to interact, but and you won't be switching between accounts like I am. So yeah, let's make sure that we switch back this time, not to local, to Alice, and submit the proposal. And yeah, now I've got a proposal that's updating our group policy. And yeah, you can see here we don't have a UI to support this quite yet, but if there's no UI, this actually is rendered in JSON. So you can also, this is actually a good moment to share. Like, you can also use the group, using the CLI and submit proposals for anything, for the eco credit module, for creating a new project, or updating a project, or creating a new credit class. You can't submit the proposal within the UI, but if you were to submit the proposal outside the UI, it would show up here in the UI, and you'd be able to vote on the proposal. So you in these early stages of the group's UI, you may have one member of your team that is more technical and is able to submit proposals that's not yet supported in the UI, and then all the members, the remaining members, would still be able to use the UI to vote on and execute the proposal. So that actually worked out well in terms of being able to throw that little piece of information in. And so you can see here our proposals are indexed. So even though this proposal passed, it actually no longer exists on the network in application state, but it is being stored in a database off-chain that is being served here. You could verify it on-chain, but as far as it being available, it's leveraging the indexer. And you can see our other two rejected proposals that no one voted on because the voting period is super short. That was a lot of information. I apologize. There's a lot of also Cosmos SDK terminology and things that I could dive into, but I think at this point I'm gonna wrap up, and would love to open it up to questions, comments. One last thing I want to mention too is because this is was always like the UI itself, not necessarily the groups module, was always a bit of a side project for us. We are hoping for community members to kind of take up the helm and help us out with building this out. I did mention in the release notes that there is kind of this alternative option. Rather than using the deployed version at groups.regen.network, it's really easy to fork the code and to add your own chain. You could even set it up so that it's only a single network for your deployment, and then basically reuse the UI as for your own chain. But if you're doing that, it would be really great and wonderful if this UI was the upstream version, and new features were submitted to this UI that would then benefit everyone who's basically forking and deploying their own for their own chain. There is also the option of adding chains to our deployment at R&D. What chains we would support would probably be a little bit challenging of a question to answer, but I mean, chains that are very aligned with the Regen network mission would be a pretty easy yes. And chains that are actually actively contributing to the project is also probably a criteria that we'd take into consideration. But yeah, that's kind of it. Lots of information, so I'll leave it there and open up to questions. Any questions?
Hey Ryan, Ishmael here. How's it going?
Hey Ishmael.
Um, I think it might be awesome if you could explain how the groups module, how the actual governance module can interact with the groups module.
Yeah, no, that's a really really great and exciting kind of space to explore. I know there are a couple other projects that have been doing a lot of explorations around that are more integrated with leveraging the groups module in the larger network governance side of things as well. So there's a few things. One, you can, with message-based governance proposals, now we're talking about the Gov module. With message-based governance proposals, the Gov module is able to execute any message as if it were an account executing messages such as create project or create group. So you can, one, imagine the network creating a group and having control over that group. Like basically the Gov module is the admin of a group, and it could then basically manage the members of the group. And but the group would then be able to execute certain actions on behalf of the Gov module account. So basically you can, one, imagine the Gov module account or address is the admin of the group, and then the group is granted an authorization by the Gov module account to execute maybe a message that is normally restricted to the Gov module, and then therefore basically the group is now managing that that particular action. And maybe to ground this a little bit, we can think of like credit types. There's a new credit type that was added, which is the kilo sheep hour credit type. And part of that proposal, people were kind of questioning, like, is this something that I have expertise in? And like, can I make a vote on this, like without the information about like whether this is a good credit type or not? And you could imagine the Gov module, basically a proposal being submitted where the Gov module would become a member of a new group, and that group would be granted the authorization of adding credit types, and then basically the community is voting on who are the members that should decide on who can add credit types. And so that's just like one example. And then, yeah, also, I mean, you can think of, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of opportunities. I think that's actually probably a good place to stop. I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, but I think that interaction is something that's really interesting to explore. And especially as we're now kind of facing a couple problems in governance, or not problems necessarily, but challenges, which is one, we've kind of got this kilo sheep hour proposal on one side, which is very like scientific community, land stewards community, climate activist community or whatever. And then we've got like COSM-WASM is another proposal that's gone up for in discussion more recently, which is very Web3 developer technical. And we could see this need basically to have governing bodies over different aspects of governance of the larger network, where everyone in the network would still be able to vote on and determine who should be the acting bodies for these particular decisions. But there's an opportunity to basically trust in different groups to execute different actions on the network. And so I think there's a lot of possibilities, and definitely it's something worth exploring. But yeah, as far as how Gov module and group module can interact, that's I think that provides a nice little summary. But let me know if I answered your question or if you have a follow-up.
Yeah, thanks so much. I appreciate taking the time to explain that more.
Cool, thanks.
Anybody else have any follow-up questions for Ryan? Thank you so much for the demo.
Yeah, thank you.
Is there a place people can go to learn more after this call if they're interested? Or
yeah, I think there's a couple levels of interest. I know there's people that want to use the group's UI, and I think it's definitely ready at a state for anyone to use. That's but I would, yeah, if you're a general user, maybe myself and the foundation, I don't know. I probably need to spend some time discussing and working with them. But like if you're a project developer or something like that, we should probably figure out a route. I know Sam's actually been working with some project developers and setting up groups, so he might be a good contact there as well. Sam and Corey, I guess. But if you're a developer and you want to contribute, Discord or making a comment in one of the existing issues on GitHub would be great. But yeah, any further general discussions, maybe around governance and things like that, Discord governance channel or the forum would be the best place for that.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thanks. Okay. All right, cool. Thank you very much. If there are no additional questions, I guess we'll push forward. Kado launch. Max, this is you.
Hey everyone, I'm Max. I head up a lot of the engineering efforts over at Kado, and really excited to be announcing this this partnership and integration here. So for Kado, what we do basically, maybe a lot of people in this space have run into the issue of trying to find a way to get crypto into their wallet, and have to jump through 25 different hoops and figure out what exchange to use and how to get it from there. So we just try to make that process a lot simpler. The onboarding process with the KYC and the payments and getting crypto right into your wallet, we take care of all that and just try to make it as smooth and quick as possible, so that we have instant settlement right into your self-custody wallet with no holding periods. So yeah, we recently launched our integration with Regen, Axel USDC and Regen on the Regen network, and we're really excited about that. You can find it at app.kado.money, and from there you can basically, you enter some KYC information, you put in your credit card info and make a payment, and that Regen will show up right in your wallet within minutes. So we're very excited about this. You can find us like I said, at app.kado.money, and in 150 plus countries we're available. We have the bank transfer, Apple Pay, debit and credit cards available for purchasing options, and we're definitely working to expand as much as we can there. A lot of other international payment methods we're working on getting as well, and coming soon, so more to come there. But yeah, you can see that this is on the right side here. This is our widget. So if there's any builders and developers in the space, you can integrate the Kado widget and the API directly into your application for easy onboarding. We have a few different options there. One, like kind of taking like the crawl walk run approach of one just being a very simple iframe integration or a new tab redirection with some URL params to sort of default different things that you want. So you can kind of choose the amount, choose the network that's going to be selected, autofill the wallet address and things like that right into there, so that you can, that buy page right there will be populated right as you want it. There's a lot more on that can be found at our docs page at docs.kado.money, and I'm always happy to answer questions about it too. But yeah, that's there's a few different approaches there, that being the simplest. And then you have like sort of an API solution as well, where you can get like the quotes ahead of time and be able to integrate a little bit closer into your site. So it's less of the Kado experience and more of your own experience, being able to get those quotes, show them on your site, jump over to the Kado widget just for payment and KYC if the first time, and then being able to track the order status back on your own site afterwards. So that's sort of what we offer as the API solution there as well. And yeah, recently with the Kepler integration, you can now go right from the buy tab on the Kepler extension, and it'll show up as Regen will show up as one of the options there, and you can purchase right to your wallet. So looking forward to seeing some of these new buyers coming in. And yeah, like I said, happy to answer any questions on here or offline, and very excited about this integration.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for Max and Kado while we've got them?
Not a
I
question.
redid. Oh, yeah.
I was just going to say I can give just a little bit more color of why this is super exciting from the Regen side. So just as much as he was talking about being able to purchase Regen. Max also mentioned that this is also for Axelar USDC. And so really what that means is we're trying to have a situation where this is drastically simplifying the experience of purchasing credits through our marketplace as well, right? So whether it's you see marketplace listings to purchase carbon credits or other ecosystem service credits that are listed in Regen or that are listed in USDC, you can directly onboard into those currencies into your Regen wallet through this integration. And there's some really exciting stuff that Kado's been working on, which we're in dialogue with them to support in the future, that would drastically improve the ability for users to even potentially have a direct credit card purchase to as part of a marketplace purchase experience. That's something that is still a bit out, both on our dev roadmap as well as on theirs. But this is a really big milestone that is part of a much longer arc for making that sort of that carbon market purchase experience a lot easier for non-Web3 users.
Definitely. Thanks for adding some color there, Corey. Yeah, I think it's very exciting for us to just keep getting that integration just as tight as possible and just as few clicks as possible to get those tokens into your wallet.
In the same vein, I reworked some of our documentation, our guidebooks last week for this, and it was crazy how much I got to delete, just like wild information about what a centralized exchange is and what a decentralized exchange is, and just replacing it with, you can just go to Kepler and find this app and purchase Regen directly. So I think it's very exciting.
Perfect. We love it. That's what we're here for.
One question I have is, I'm just curious about like off-ramping. So as things are coming on with LATAM and other places, a common challenge for many of our smallholder land stewards is actually bank access. And I'm just curious, if this kind of opens up a world in which we could see a land steward somewhere who's producing credits, and someone in, like a business, say, that wants to buy carbon credits, send USDC, and through your service, they can basically like get cash out at the end of the day and use it off chain.
Definitely something that we are focusing on, and it's a cool thing that we've had many discussions about for many different use cases like that. Right now, we have the off-ramp solution for ACH, and some of these, I think we go through Squid, and Squid just announced the Cosmos to EVM side of the integration. So we have a lot of Cosmos assets to be able to integrate, including Regen on the sell side now as well. And that's definitely a use case we imagine is like just being able to auto deposit Regen tokens or Axelar USDC and just to some address every week or something, and just having it basically auto transfer to some bank or wire payment or something that you've configured ahead of time for those payments to go to. So the sort of behind the scenes, you don't even know you're doing it type transactions is something that we're definitely working towards.
Cool.
All right, last call for any questions on this topic before we push forward. All right, let's do it. Corey, I think this is you.
Yeah, so I'm going to do this together with Sam. We're here with Austin from the Regen Foundation, spending some time co-working together this week in Colorado. So this was a governance proposal that passed, I believe it went up maybe 2 weeks ago, and it passed last week for adding the first non-carbon credit type to Regen Ledger. This has come up a bit in conversation from the permissionless credit class proposal that folks remember from the governance forum. This discussion around credit types is something that, at this point in time is still gated via governance. And it's something that, we want to ensure that the larger kind of community has some kind of process around in delineating what kinds of units we're able to demarcate ecosystem service credits in, or eco credits in. And so this is for the addition of a new one called Kilo Sheep Hour, which is the unit that we're going to be using, that we are using for a new credit class that we've worked on internally at R&D, developing in partnership with an organization called Fibershed. So that just went up and passed last week. And within days after that, the credit class has gone live, and the first project for that credit class. And we're just in the process now of actually getting those first round of credits issued. So, the governance update is that this Kilo Sheep Hour credit type is now live and on chain, but there's a lot more to talk about as well. And I think it'll be, there'll be other ways in which we're talking about this launch once those credits have been issued as well, and we can communicate kind of that whole story together. But yeah, I don't know. I think Sam wants to add a little bit more color to the background context on the credit too. Feels like it makes sense to talk about a little bit of that on this call too.
Yeah, so just to share a little bit about what is the Kilo Sheep Hour. So this is the first one of our environmental stewardship credit types, and this is the first environmental stewardship credit class, where rather than crediting for outcome-based metrics like tons of carbon or improvements in water quality or ecosystem function, we're actually measuring the successful implementation of a practice in verifying that people are actually engaging in a regenerative practice and crediting based off of that. So the Kilo Sheep Hour actually measures how long sheep were grazing in specific vineyard paddocks. So what we have the grazing operator do is timestamp when the sheep started and stopped grazing in a certain area, how many sheep were actually there, and then we do kind of a third-party verification to verify that the sheep were actually there using remote sensing. And if they are, we're going to be calculating the number of credits based off of the amount of hours the sheep were in the paddock, which is something like the time times the number of sheep divided by a number kind of to create the final credit calculation. So this is really exciting for us because we're able to create a credit that is just focused around people engaging in a practice, which really opens up the doors to scaling this crediting program in a very quick way in California, where we're using it. So you guys should see credits coming on chain soon. So stay tuned.
Yep.
Oh yeah, and quick plug from Dave. Loa is facilitating the OTC purchases for Kilo Sheep Hour. So contact him if you are interested in purchasing some.
Cool. I think that's it for us, Ari.
Awesome, thank you. Any questions for them on this while we've got them? I assume this might be gone into like a little bit deeper depth in the next call as well. Probably covered a bit. Okay, cool. Cool. So if you guys want to learn more about this, join the Registry Science and Foundation call in 2 weeks. Oh. Okay, an update, discussion update. I think this is also probably you, Corey.
Sorry, were you saying this is for me?
Is this not you?
Yeah, I hadn't prepared anything for this. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Might end up,
I can talk about it. I mean, I can read the slides and see sort of what this is getting at here, but I don't know. Is Sarah on the call? If
No,
not,
she's not.
Was that directed to me? I didn't hear.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I can speak to it, I guess. I think probably you're a better person to talk about it in depth, Corey, but coming out, one of the core decisions that we need to make as a community is what the credit class creation fee is going to be. You can see in the screenshot, both Sarah and I just ran a quick informal poll to see what people who happened to be scrolling on Twitter thought about that question, just to sort of spark conversation, really. But this is part of what's needed. You know, we need to either decide to leave it the same or upgrade the credit class creator fee. Some people have said that they want to keep it very low to enable sort of the democratization of access. I personally tend to think that it's actually this is a good point to have a little bit of friction and a little bit higher cost, because the creation of credit classes, you don't want people to be spamming it. You want people to be serious about the potential value that they're providing for other parties by going through and creating a new credit class. And so from my perspective, there's a case to be made from that perspective to just have a, little bit more significant fee that friction in this case is actually quite healthy. But, I think that there's an opportunity here if people have opinions, either direction, to talk about that. And of course, the forum post that Corey did, that Corey posted around permissionless credit classes, I think has a whole sub conversation in which several people have commented specifically about this topic. And so we're just sort of continuing to farm for ideas and input there. And, and then if there isn't kind of a clear consensus, which, my look at the Twitter poll, it wasn't like everybody voted one way. It's a bit of a spread. So, I don't think R&D, given that this is a multi-part governance process, we're like proposing to upgrade to enable, to change a parameter on chain to enable anyone to create a credit class. And we're also talking about the shift of credit class fees. We just don't want there to be a hang up if people have a big disagreement about the fees, but are excited to move forward towards permissionless credit classes. So that's why it's kind of important to share if people have strong opinions. I believe that the default at this point, from an R&D perspective, that most of us are on the page of, hey, let's increase this to something like 2,000. So if it was just going to be sort of like an out-of-the-box default for us as an organization, and we will be putting up this next proposal for the community, I would expect something like that. So if that's very exciting, let's hear it. And if that's like, oh no, we definitely shouldn't do that, then this is a great time to voice those concerns so that we can really dialogue and then, kind of come to a good middle ground. So I'll pause there. That's probably a good overview.
Awesome, thank you. I guess if people have additional feedback after this call on that topic, would it be appropriate to go to that original permissionless credit class discussion, or is there a new one up specifically for the fee yet? Maybe not yet, just Twitter polls. Let's say comment on the original credit class discussion if you have
Just one
additional
that we have.
thoughts.
Yeah, sorry. I'm on like phone and Zoom mute, so I'm in this like layers of. So yeah, I would just say definitely just go to the original discussion and comment there, and just say, I think of course we'd like people to comment about multiple layers of that proposal, but please, if you've got something to say, just, at the beginning, say I'm commenting about the fee specifically, and then share your opinion. I think that's definitely the best place to do it.
Cool, thank you guys very much. On the fly. Okay, just some general governance updates before we part ways. We've got that signaling proposal, COSMWASM, that Ryan mentioned earlier in his presentation to comment on. We've got the Regen Tokenomics Working Group that is continuing to take place. We actually created an entire new category of our governance page on Commonwealth for token discussions. So hopefully all of our token discussions are now categorized in there. If you have an old one that I didn't get put in there, just let me know. And we'll get that added. And then yeah, upgrade candidate, governance processes and community spend proposal, which it sounds like Loa is doing a talk on tomorrow on Discord at 8 a.m. We're going to try to get that added to our events on Discord as well, so you can easily find it. And yeah, that just about does it for us on updates, product and protocol wise this week. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks for Registry Science and Foundation. Have a good one.